time for the Sultan Sass podcast when we share our love for the wonderful world of board games with you, whether you're a gaming veteran or just starting your tabletop journey. Welcome to episode 60. I'm Suzanne,
And I'm Mandy.
and here we are 60, and it's January 1st when we are recording this. For folks who are listening to the podcast, Mandy and I decided to record this one during a live stream. So it's January 1st, it's New Year's, and Mandy and I are literally live streaming this. We aren't planning on interacting with chat at all or anything like that, so that the audio podcast makes sense if
Yes.
we forget in the middle of the podcast, our apologies. But if you get bored and you want to, if you're like, hey, I'll just watch the VOD, you're welcome to go do that because that will be available as well. But Mandy, Happy New Year's.
Yes, Happy New Year.
It's great to be kind of celebrating with you here today and
It's
recording
a
our
treat.
episode 60. I don't know, round numbers. I like round numbers, so 60 is a fun number.
Me too. I think 60 is great. 60.
Right. We I think we're not gonna have crowdfunding today because it's really slow in the crowdfunding world right now. Because running a campaign over the holiday season is a little iffy for how much support you can really garner at that period.
Yeah.
So no crowdfunding, but we are serving up a great game pie. Think about what you are and message us later about this because I like this one. It's our gaming resolutions for the year, and that will be the game pie we serve up at the end of the show after we talk about games we've been playing. But Mandy, all right, it's the holidays. You've had a little bit of time off. I suspect that means you've been playing a lot of video games, right?
Oh, you know the drill, of course. And it's funny, this year was weird. My time off was awkward because I used to take some time off in between. So, because of the way it fell, and I don't know if anybody else out there was in the same boat, but I had it was like I had to work, and then it was like half a day because it was, or like we got to go home a little bit early on like Christmas Eve or something. And then there was Christmas, and then we have Boxing Day, but then I had to come in for one day at the end of the week. And then I was back the Monday, Tuesday, and then, or you know what I mean? Like I had to work
Yeah.
weird days in between. So
Hmm.
yeah, we're not doing that next year. I'm sorry. Nah.
Take it off.
Well, and the way it falls would be better next year, but yeah,
Mm.
that's trash. So if anybody was with me on that, I'm sure we did have Boxing Day, which I know Americans don't get. I don't know if anybody else
Yeah, is
does.
Boxing Day a Canadian thing or is it a British and
I'm
Canadian thing?
pretty sure it's like a British thing that obviously has carried over for
Okay.
us.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that anybody who falls under kind of any kind of British Commonwealth or anything like that will also follow suit. That
Got
is
it.
my
Sure.
assumption.
Sure.
I'm sure someone will correct me if I am wrong. But aside from that, I did have time to play games. Majority of these I played on the Steam Deck because I was being lazy and, it was just there. I know. So
You got it for a reason. It's so convenient. It's
I
such a great
know.
tool to
But
play your games.
Indiana Jones does not run super great on it. So yeah, so I'm gonna have to go back to the Xbox for that one. But let me jump in. So last time I talked about games, I talked about Lemon Cake. So I'm not gonna go into details about that. Lemon Cake is published by Sodesco and it's available on Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, PC, and Android. And it's one of those cute, cozy games. Think of what's that one? Overcooked, but not as
Mhm.
wild. I mean, there is some speed element trying to serve your clients and things like that. It was grindy, and I don't know how I feel about that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I got all the achievements except for one. I had to make $10,000 in the game, and I'm at 8,000. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Sorry. It was just got really grindy at one point, and I was like, then it was just more like, okay, I wanted to just get it over with. And I think I put 20 some odd hours in this game. That's a game for me that it was cute, but it could have ended after 10 hours. That didn't need to be a 20 some hour game. So that's just my opinion. Maybe some people did it shorter. Lemon Cake is cute. I would buy it on sale. Definitely not one I would pay full price for. Sorry.
And you don't pay full price for anything.
Fair point. But there are some people who do pay full price for their games. I recommend you wait for a sale for that one, which is what I did. The next one on my list is Minami Lane. And this is another cozy type game. So I have a few cozy games on here. And this is published by Doot Tiny Games and Wholesome Games. Wholesome Games Presents. And it's on Switch, PC, specifically Windows, Linux, and Mac. This was so cute. I loved this game. It was not long enough for me. I heard they are coming out with another game. I don't know if it follows the same world, but you're trying to build up a community. So it has different scenes of the community. You're trying to build up, parks and homes, and they have different, they have elderly people and they have younger people. And then you're trying to set up shops that appeal to both crowds. And I think there's a ramen shop. So you can make a ramen that appeals to maybe the young group, but then the elderly group's like, we don't too much pork or too much this or whatever. So you have to like find recipes that work for both. And then you have to make the area appealing or people are not going to want to come and live in your community. Anyway, you had a whole bunch of objectives and you wanted to try and do it within a certain amount of time frame. It sounds really simple, which it was, but I really enjoyed it. I wanted more of this one. So I think I randomly picked it up for like $6 or $5 or something on Steam because they were having that sale. And I really enjoyed it. So I really can't wait to see the next game they put out. So Minami Lane, so good. Okay, now we're kind of moving into something a little different. Chained Together. So Chained Together is definitely not a cozy game. And it is literally a game. So let me say it's published by Anagar Games, and I think this is only available on PC. It's super cheap. I did not buy this on sale. Surprise everybody. But I think it cost me like $7. So it is literally a game that you are chained together with your people you're playing with. And I think it's up to 3 people or something like that. And you can either be chained in a line or chained in like a circle. So we opted for not that. We just decided to be chained in a line. And you're trying to make your way out through the depths of hell, like upward in the game. So there's like things where you have to be timing your jumps together, or running across something together. And, one person doesn't do it, you all kind of fall down. And thank goodness you can restart from like your last point, which we didn't figure out till later, but we did get there. And then there's like a little timer that you can actually put on. Like, okay, we got to jump. 3, 2, 1. So you can jump. And some of these jumps are crazy. Like the platforms are really small. Things are moving really fast. So it really throws you off. But I played with a good group. So, we had a really good time playing and we just were laughing at just how ridiculous it was. But we had so much fun. So this is what I might stream. I would love to get Suzanne on this to play.
Oh my gosh.
But I don't know if she'll play it. But I really hope so because it's silly and it's fun. Like, honestly, I think people just get a good kick out of it. So that is Chained Together. Silly fun. The one game on this list I paid full price for. Next, I have a couple more here. Behind the Frame. And people, can jump in later maybe if on when we put up our episode on BGG about some of these games if they've played them. Behind the Frame. And this is published by Silver Lining Studio. It's on Switch, PlayStation, PC, so Mac, Windows, iOS, and Android.
Everything.
So it's pretty much everything. As I read that list and you said that, I'm like, yeah, that's everything. Have you played this one?
No.
Oh, okay. So Behind the Frame, it's a person that's they're painting and they're telling a story through the paintings, like someone that they've met a long time ago and they can't figure out like, when did I meet this person? How did it happen? And there's also an older person that lives across from them with a cat and they're a painter and, they're trying to find out a little bit of their life and how it connects with theirs. So it's almost like puzzly, but painting because you're trying to find the different paints in your apartment or area in order to finish your painting to continue telling the story. So you need to look at clues around your house and things like that. Again, it's another cozy type game. Another game that wasn't long enough, but I find a lot of these games are like that. They don't overstay their welcome, but they're really interesting. So I like games that have a little bit of the story with that cozy element. So I was really into Behind the Frame. My paints, thank goodness they control the paint because my painting would have been a mess. But it was a really good story. I really enjoyed it. And again, another one I just randomly picked up in the Steam sale. I was like, oh, this looks cute. Let's give it a go. Very strong. So I really enjoyed that one as well. The last game I'm going to talk about, because I don't know, I had a lot here, is called Lottelnaut.
I promise, we are a board game podcast, but
I know, we do play the, video games here and there. And unfortunately, none of these are really board game adjacent, so I apologize. But we try to keep it to a minimum. Lottelnaut is published by Moon Lagoon, and it's on PC, so Windows and Mac. I don't know if you've seen this one, Suzanne, but you're like a little, I don't know, what would you call it? Someone who, like,
if it's on PC, how is it on? Wait, it's on PC, and then you say Windows and Mac.
Yeah, so I say that because some games in Steam specifically, you have to buy specifically a Mac version, and I believe not all games on Steam are available.
Right. Got it. Okay, so
Windows,
it's Steam, but
Mac.
it's Windows and Mac. Got it. Okay,
correct.
Yes.
So, yeah, or it is PC. But if I say just PC, I usually mean just Windows, but I realize that not everybody uses that. So, yes, that is... No, I appreciate you saying that, and I should differentiate that. Not all games are available on Mac. So, there was a whole thing about one of the celebrities getting really upset about Elden Ring because it wasn't available on Mac, and anyway. That's a different story. But Lottelnaut, I don't know if you're like a scuba diver, I don't know what you would call it, but they're underwater, and you're trying to clean up the water. So you're trying to go around and like take all the yucky stuff off the plants, collect all the garbage, and then you put them into these machines on your home base to turn them into gems and things to kind of like upgrade your system, be able to stay in certain areas longer because you run out of breath if you're away for too long. So you have to go through these like loops or hoops to get your oxygen back. So you want to investigate, but you also don't want to be too far from these like little breath loops. Otherwise, you just have to, you don't die, but you start all over or start over. And it's like, great, I got to do this all over again. So you have objectives and things like that. So again, another cozy, easy breezy game. I shouldn't say easy breezy. This one stresses me out actually because I'm running out of breath and I'm like, dang it, I can't get farther than this point. So I haven't played that one as much. It's not because it's bad, just because I was focusing on some other things. So Lotto Knot is we're going to see how it goes. I like it, but it's stressing me out a little bit. So those are what I've been pushing on. And then of course, Indiana Jones. I think it's a great circle. I will be getting back to that today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's been the holidays and, I've got family and all this other stuff. So it's been really hectic. One really fun thing I did get to do, though, is I have friends from the Boards Alive podcast. They live in Canada and our kids are really good friends. I'm good friends with them. So they stopped by and we went to this thing called Enchant, the light show in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it is a giant light maze that they create. They take over all of T-Mobile Park, which is our baseball stadium. So it's this massive stadium just stuffed with lit figures and statues. Yeah. Like they had and there's like a journey, it's a maze, but they literally have like an ice skating loop in the middle of it. They had a working Ferris wheel, and in the center there was this, I don't know, 200-foot tall tree light sculpture that had, programmed lights. It was gorgeous. It was amazing. It was so much fun. And I love that, right? That was a really fun thing to get to do for the holidays. So if the Enchant Light Show comes to your area, do recommend. It was really, really impressive. So that was kind of a fun holiday thing, but mostly I've been in holiday recovery. So not a lot of video gaming actually, but the two random ones, but I have had my phone a lot, waiting in line or things like that. So the two I want to mention, perhaps selfishly, I've been playing the Pokemon Pocket CCG. It's a very lightweight version. It's so well done, and I need more friends. So I'll post that in like the show notes and in our BGG thread and things like that. But if you are playing the Pokemon Pocket CCG, friend me. I need more friends. It's so goofy, but I like it a lot. Nice. They did a good job with it. It's really well executed. The other one I've been going back to is Animal Crossing Pocket Camp Complete. So Animal Crossing Pocket Camp was this free-to-play app. The monetization was wild. I played for a little bit, and then I had to quit because the monetization got out of hand. Well, Nintendo announced they were killing that app after years of support and re-releasing a premium app for $10, the Pocket Camp Complete. So it's the same general experience, but now there's no in-app purchases. You can just collect things and goof around and complete little missions. It's really lightweight. It's a great mobile game, right? Because you can spend 5 minutes on it, move on. And if you had the earlier edition and you link your Nintendo account, all of your stuff carries over, which I thought was a brilliant move. So I'm like, yeah, for $10, I'll buy in. Now I don't have to deal with all that monetization. Well, I also need more friends there. There's not a lot of socialization, but there's one little thing. So, if anybody is playing Pocket Camp Complete,
it's like, friend me. Help me.
Be my friend. So, yeah. So that's really where my non-board gaming has been the last couple of weeks. And that's okay. So there you go. But I have actually, it's, with a little bit of time off and things like that, I have been playing a ton of board games and it's been awesome.
Oh, that's great. I'm jealous, not me.
Yeah, with friends and game, people having time off. So we're skipping crowdfunding because it's a really slow time in the season for crowdfunding, just in general but then for the holiday season for board games specifically. So no crowdfunding this episode.
But before we completely skip it, I'm sure you got it too. Like after the holidays, it's a nice surprise to see my pledge manager come in for Tend. I was like, oh yeah, I guess I got to fill that out.
Oh,
and that is massive because I'm doing one for myself and then two of my friends also want to jump in. So that's going to be massive. Like obviously everyone's paying for their own, but it's like, after Christmas, it's like, geez Louise. That's a huge one.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Woo. I know it's a rolling right. So it'll be great.
Throw that out
cool. Alrighty, so let's get to some games we've been playing.
Okay, first on my list, I feel like I thought I talked about this game, but I don't think I did. I played it a
I don't think
bunch.
you have.
I don't think I have either. Okay, I must
I've
just
seen I've seen chatter about it, but I haven't heard
yeah.
your point of view on it, and I
Okay.
haven't played it, so looking forward to this.
Okay, well, apologies if maybe I just talked about it on socials, but the game is called Tower Up. And apparently, I didn't realize how popular it was until a lot of people were telling me that it was, I think, featured at Essen. And a lot of people were saying it's one of their favorites of the year. They really enjoyed it. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I got to try this. So, Tower Up is designed by Frank Cretin, Grégoire Larger, and Sébastien Pochon. And art is by Nadege Caligari, Laurent Escoffier, and Jeffrey Steporenko. The publisher is Monolith Board Games. It plays 2 to 4 players in about 30 to 45 minutes, and it retails for about $51 Canadian. So not too bad, but once you see the pieces in the game, it kind of makes sense why it's a slightly higher price point, excuse me. So in the game, you are designated as an architectural firm, but you've been saying, hey, we're going to renovate the downtown. But it's not just you. You have some competition. So, yes, this is not cooperative. You're working against each other. And it's a very straightforward game, actually, because you have your own board. So, players have their own board, and there are a couple tracks on this board depending on the types of building pieces you put on the board. You will be moving those types of tracks, which will eventually get you points at the end of the game. And potentially additional actions when you pass certain spaces, like all of your pieces kind of land on or pass a certain space, you'll get some extra actions. Then you have the main board, which is a map, and depending on the player count will depend on how big the map is. And they're kind of sectioned off in like areas, and that matters because you have some objectives potentially that might relate to having a certain amount of buildings in this area or a certain amount of in this area or that sort of thing. So that's why they're kind of sectioned off. And then you have I don't know, like an organizer that holds all the pieces, and it also holds all the cards. And the cards are what you're going to be able to take in order to take these pieces on your turn. So on your turn, you have options. You can either take pieces. So there are cards that are displayed, and I think it's 3 cards, and you get to choose one, and whatever one you get, those are the pieces that you get. That's your turn. Or you could potentially place out pieces on the board to make buildings. And it's usually not just one piece. Oftentimes it's more. So what ends up happening in the game is you put out a piece for building, and then any surrounding building that's around it, you have to be able to put a piece on those buildings as well. You're also limited to that you cannot place buildings of the same color beside each other. All while that you're trying to get those objectives completed because they're going to get you points. And these objectives are everybody can complete them, but whoever does them first will get the higher point value and so forth. So everyone will have the opportunity, but you get the higher point value for doing them first. Other people can also cap buildings, and capping buildings gets you extra points, right? But you can also build on top of these caps, which is interesting because I know a lot of games once someone's kind of piece is there, then it usually ends. Not in this case. So you can actually go on top of it. And again, for reasons, if you have objectives that everyone can kind of try to complete. So the game ends after, I believe it's after so many pieces are gone and then the objectives are completed. So it's been a hot minute since I played this game. Hold on. Let me just make sure. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Okay. So that's the game. It's literally that. Take a turn.
Yeah.
Take a card, place a piece, complete some objectives. Potentially blocking people at the same time because the board gets really tight really fast, and always having the pieces you need. Because yeah, you can build that building, but then if it's adjacent to anything, specifically adjacent, you now have to have pieces that go on top of those buildings as well. So it can really mess you up if you have to like skip a turn because you're like, dang it, I don't have the pieces, so I gotta get it and then watch somebody else get to that objective before you do. You still get points, just not as much. And then having those extra actions on your player board are super helpful. I was really bad at that, by the way. I was very bad about maximizing that board and getting the pieces to move in unison. I think I got, like, every time I played, 1 or 2 extra actions max, and someone was doing it and they just kept getting those extra actions, and that really makes a difference, especially when there might be between you and someone else getting that token to get more points. I mean, it's 7 points, and then next thing you know, you're getting 3 because you took too long to do it. It reminded me of another game, and I'm trying to think of what it is. It's not the same as like what's the one with that big box, the Rome, and they made a remake of it.
Oh yeah, Foundations of Rome.
Yeah, it's not like that, sort of. It kind of is, but not. I don't know. I just had that vibe for me. Maybe it was just the placing of the buildings on top because there are many games that do that. Santorini does that sort of thing.
Sure.
But I don't know if there are other ones where you have to place a piece and then place pieces on the ones connecting to it or adjacent to it.
Mhm,
That
mhm,
might be a little
mhm.
bit different. All that to say, even though it was a simple game, I really enjoyed it. And the first time I played it, I actually backed out of the game so somebody else that was new to our game night could. He
Aw.
came late, so I didn't want him to be sitting there. I was like, yeah, go ahead, I'll just watch. And he's like, oh, like I really enjoy this. Thanks so much for showing. So I like the fact that someone who's newer to gaming could enjoy it. We all have been playing tons of heavy games, and we're all like, oh, this is great. And I got it like competitive, but not horrible because you could still contribute 2 pieces on the board. So I did like that. And I like the fact that you're limited to making choices, this action or this action. And really,
Mhm.
I'm not a planner. But in this game, I kind of had to, I found myself, okay, I need to do this. Wait, so and so. Like I was actually paying attention to what other people had. That was the end of the game. It's how many pieces of your tops you have left. I think you have to get rid of, if a player's gotten rid of all their pieces, the game will end. That was it. Um, so yeah, so I actually found myself looking at other people's pieces and then looking at the objectives. Like I actually cared. Usually times I just played randomly and the pieces let them fall as they may, but I actually was like into it. And the time frame, like what they have is accurate. It plays very quickly. So all in all, Tower Up for me, I really enjoyed it. I could see why people were saying it was a favorite for them because it was thinky and you could make it like a little more challenging and there were rules to make it not as challenging as well. So if you were playing with a younger audience, that was also an option. I like the variability and I like the simple choices, but it makes you still be interactive and involved in the game. So Tower Up for me, I think you'd like it. I thought you had played this one, Suzanne. No?
Nope, I have not, but it
Oh,
sounds like something I would enjoy for sure,
yeah,
yeah.
I think
Yeah,
so.
cool. Alright, I'm gonna sneak in 2 games at once
Nah.
because they're both party games from the Op, and I think they pair well together because it's been the holidays and I've been with a bunch of random people, right? And sometimes you just wanna relax and play a quick game and maybe not one you have to think about too much,
Mm.
so let's talk about a couple. I'm gonna be talking about DadaDa and Flip 7.
Wait, like the song? Da da da. Do do. Okay, sorry.
No. I will not attempt to say it that way because I can't sing, but lovely job. So let's start with Flip 7. So Flip 7 is a straightforward card game designed by Eric Olson with graphic design by O'Neill Mabel. And like I mentioned from the op, both of these games you should be able to get for like $15 US or less.
Oh,
They're
good.
very affordable. They're just card games, right? Flip 7 has a pyramid deck 0 through 12. If a pyramid deck is, you have 1, 1, 5, 5s, 12, 12s, that kind of thing in the deck. And there are some other cards like freeze, draw 3, and a safety card. I forget what it's called. Shuffle it up. And Mandy, this is a game. It's been a lot of people are loving it, especially for bigger events and things like that, because the
Yeah.
player count's really expandable. And it's like you put one card in front, you shuffle up, one card goes in front of every player, and basically you're collecting points. The value of the card is points,
Mhm.
but of course, if and then the game ends when somebody hits 200 points and they win the game.
Right.
The key is you get one card in front of you, then you just go around. It's a push your luck game. So you don't have a hand of cards or anything. It's just then when it's your turn, the dealer's going to look at you and say, hit or pass. You can hit or pass. If you get a duplicate card to what you already have in front of you, you bust and you're out and you get Zippo points.
Wow, okay.
So, if you have a 12, hey, that's 12 points, but there are 12 in the deck. So it's much more the likelihood you're going to get another 12 is much
Right.
higher than if you have, say, a 3 in front of you. Then it's a safer hit, right? Because the chances of you getting another 3, middling. So you keep on going until everybody busts or everybody passes. You score your points, do it again. Somebody hits 200, game over, or just play until you're sick of it because
Mm.
it is kind of that kind of game. There are, if you hit 7, it's called Flip 7.
Mhm.
That's because if you manage to get a run of 7 unique cards without busting in front of you, then you end the round and you get some bonus points for hitting that as well. There's those extra little cards. Freeze means you can play that on another player and just freeze them where they're at. So if
Nice.
somebody's doing really well, you can stop them. There's a draw 3 you can play that forces somebody to draw the next 3 cards. Very Uno-ish vibes in that respect. This game is dead simple. You can teach it to anybody. You can play it with anybody. I've played it with very young kids. I've played it with, people my age,
Yeah.
which is not very young kids. And here's the thing. You gotta be in the right mood, and I think it's a game for the right moment because it is very, very simple
Mhm.
and very just push your luck. There's no strategy. It's all just flip a card, don't flip a card, take your chances. But if you've got a large crowd, if you just want to play a quick game, if you've got a lot of people who don't usually play games, or if you're in a mood, if you're having some grown up beverages and you just want to hang out, it really is a great game for those moments. If you are playing at a hardcore game night and everybody's in the mood for something more like Tower Up
Yeah.
or Woodcraft, then it might not be the greatest game because it's a luck fest. It's a goofy luck fest. But if you want a goofy luck fest, it's choice. The production is very nice. The cards are very nice. It's a very pretty game as well for what it's worth.
Okay.
That's Flip 7.
Why do I
The
feel like
other
why do I
A
feel like I've
lot of people
never
are talking about. So a lot of people in the
Okay.
hobby,
Sorry, yeah.
you're gonna see it a lot on social media, and I think it makes sense because it's the holidays, and it's the kind of game you can just throw down in front of
Yeah.
anybody.
Okay.
So I've been seeing a lot of chatter about it.
Okay. Sorry, I thought I'd heard
So
about it.
oh, yeah. Now I'm gonna sneak in DadaDa. DadaDa. Woo, these designers. Okay. Gustavo Ceci Guimares, Lee McGear, TJ Spotley, and Julian Spinelli. Again, this is from the op, and again, you should be able to get it for $15 or less US.
Not bad.
DadaDa is all about it's a cooperative game in which you create a language and then use that language to identify objects. You have a deck of word cards, and I'm air quoting here. Words are just syllables like bam, bing, ta, ooh, her, things like that, like just random kind of cave person
Okay.
syllables. And then you have a huge deck of simple line drawing illustrations. So it's not this isn't a game where you're interpreting what the illustration is. That's a pair of sunglasses. That's a mountain. That's
Right.
an airplane. Like there's no question. So the drawings are very straightforward and simple, and that's a good thing for this game. So what you're going to do is there's two phases. First thing you're going to do is you're going to take 5 word cards. You're going to whoever the person running the game is, they're going to pronounce the words so you're all saying them the same way
Right.
and lay them out on the table. And then you're going to get 13 illustration cards and you are going to assign them to these words. So maybe I get an airplane and a television. Well, those are both kind of mechanical, electric things. I'm going to put them by Da. Okay. And then, oh, I get a piece of cheese and I get a heart. Well, cheese I'm going to put by Bam,
Yeah.
and the heart I'm going to put by Ding. Okay. So now you've kind of identified the vibe of these words. So, and everybody sees it and everybody agrees, and you kind of get a little clever about where you're placing the words. So, if something could be, oh, it's mechanical, but it's also food, like maybe it's an oven.
Okay.
Well, it's mechanical, but it's related to food. Maybe you put it kind of between the two words that mean that kind of thing. So it could be her Bing or something like that instead of just her. Okay. And then you're going to take the deck of cards. You're going to take one. That's your target card. Ooh, look, it's the mountain. So, and then you're going to take 5 more random cards, shuffle them up, lay them on the table. And then everybody gets a turn being the communicator.
Right.
And so I'm going to look at the cards and I'm going to look at the language that we've created. I'm going to say, oh, the mountain is uh, Batra because that makes sense based on the table. Then all the other players are trying to figure out of the 6 cards on the table, which card is Batra. The trick of this game is it's similar to code names in that you want to give a clue, you want to say word, you have to find the one that will get them to your card but doesn't lead to any of the other cards as
Mm.
well because depending on the cards there can be some overlap and you're trying to figure that out.
Right.
And that's a fun little puzzle. So a lot of times you'll get the cards out there and then the communicator is staring at the cards, staring at the words going, "Ooh, what do I do? What do I do?" And then they say, "Bing da." Okay. And then the other players go around and they're looking, they're bing da, her bing, bing bing, her, whatever,
Mhm.
until they try to identify the card. If you get it right, yay. If you get it wrong, boo. And 2 wrongs ends the game and you lose the game, or you just keep on playing because it's one of those games, right? The not the twist, but the trick here is once you when you start playing,
Mhm.
you may not use any other language than the sounds on these cards. As I'm laying them out, I'm only like making these goofy noises.
Yeah.
Her, bing, 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 da, da da, bap, 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 and then all of the communication between the players, they can only be using those sounds. So you literally end up in not arguments, but
Sure.
disagreements as you're looking at a card and you're like, Bing, bing. Her, her, bing, bing, her, da, 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 ba, da. Like it's goofy. It's really, really silly. And it works. It
Yeah.
really does work. It's got a little bit of that code names, a little bit of that concept, a little bit of even Dixit going on in here, but it's very partyish, right? It's very
Sure.
light. It's a game you can throw down. It's pretty quick and easy to teach, and it's just super goofy and fun to engage with. Now, if you have people that aren't into goofy, this isn't the game for them.
Right, right.
But, because you are but if you are the kind of person that would get joy out of just hearing people argue with random syllables over cards, DadaDa is I really like this one. It's great for larger, I say larger groups. You probably don't want to get too big, but you
Sure.
can definitely go past the 4. Like you can play with 6 easily. I again played this with people of a wide variety of ages, and that's really, really fun, actually. And I think this one's super clever, and it's a great party game for quote unquote gamers. For board gamers, I think this is a really great party game. Like I don't consider code names a party game; it's a team game to me.
Yeah.
Um, Da 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 is a party game,
Okay.
and I really, really like it. So that is the op knocked it out with 2 party games, Da 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 and Flip 7.
As someone with ADHD, I feel like we would be extremely smart. I can't speak to the other neurospicy, for the other neurospicy people, but I definitely feel that da 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 would be great for us because I feel like a lot of us talk like that anyway. I don't know, maybe not for you. When I used to do makeup, I'd be like, pass me the ch, or something like that. And then my
Mhm.
friend would be like, she knew exactly, yeah, pass me the sharpener.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Like, she knew
Yeah.
exactly what I was talking about. So I don't know. I feel like I would be particularly skilled in this
Yeah, I
thing.
would play this with you in a heartbeat. It would be a blast. It's super goofy and super fun.
I love it. Yeah.
It's your turn, Mandy.
Is it?
Yes,
Oh,
because I did.
it is.
I snuck in 2 party
You know what?
games.
That's what threw me off. I was
Yeah,
like, oh, wait a second.
you have another game.
I do. It's gonna
Okay.
be short. So the next
Is
game,
it? Okay.
oh, it is. I mean, it's so the next game that I'm gonna talk about, and this is one I might kind of revisit, but Altered. So Altered is a TCG, so trading card game. Some of you might be familiar with it. It's been out for a little while. It was on Kickstarter. It's designed by Regis Bonnes, Nathaniel Dufour, Jacques Ernaud, Merlin Ismet, and quite the team. So there, I think, are a few names that are on that
Sure.
list.
A
Uh,
TCG is a massive design project. Holy cow,
it's
yeah.
huge. So apologize for not listing all names, but yeah, this is quite a big team. Art is by Max Fieve and Ting Yun Yu, and it's published by Equinox. So and then we're very transparent about this. I did receive packs from Asmodee for this because I believe they are the ones distributing it. In Canada, I don't know about anywhere else specifically. And it's for 2 to 4 players, plays in about 10 to 40 minutes. And this is accurate depending on how well you play. So the price is, going to be a little different. So the starter deck packs are about $18 Canadian. But then if you want to get really into it, you can buy like the booster display boxes, and those are about 150 Canadian. I think it's under 100 in US dollars, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm.
So this is definitely one of those games where it's I don't want to say rules light, but it kind of is. Like it's pretty straightforward to learn. You're going head to head, or you can play with more players. I'll be honest with you, I've only played this so far with 2. Apparently, you can play with 3 and 4. I don't know how that would
I think
work.
most of these games. Well, yeah, I won't.
I mean, yeah, no, and to be fair, like it's like Champions, right? It can be played, but unless you want to be there for a million years, 2 players is where it's at. And I feel like this is very similar, but you can play it with more players. Not my jam. I will revisit if I try it. Anyway, so 2 players is kind of where I'm going with this right now. And so yeah, you're going head to head with people. You know, you have a deck, they have a deck. You pick a certain faction character. They have abilities that you're going to use, and GameGenix was kind enough to send me a lot of the extras that come with it, that have been made for the game. So I got to see how some of the acrylic characters work and the mats and things like that. Not needed, but it's nice to have. It just keeps things really organized. So what you're trying to do is you have, I'm going to explain this in very simple terms. So you have your hero and then you have your companion, and they're on two ends of these kind of cards in the middle of the table. And I think it's a total of maybe 5 or 6 cards. I'm trying to do it off the top of my head. And you're trying to get them to kind of meet or converge, I guess you could say, in order to win the game. And on each card, there are different terrains on them. And when you're playing cards, you want to have the majority, or at least to have some pull in that area. Like you want to have the majority in those terrains in order to progress. However, the other person that's on there with you, if they have a majority in an area that you don't, they can also progress to the next card. So that's something to consider. When playing cards, there are different types of cards. You have spells, you have other kind of companions or hero thing cards that you can play, much like any of these other card games if you've played them. So they all have different types of abilities. There are ways to anchor cards. So you have cards that can like stay out versus at the end of a game, they will come down to your kind of reserve area and you're only allowed to hold so many of those. But then later when you go to play them out, they have a different cost to play them back out on a future turn. So some cards are meant to be played and discarded. Some heroes have cards that kind of just hang out. It's like an added ability of that hero that provides you, for like a few turns, will provide you something and then it's discarded, things like that. So I do like the fact that they have cards that after a round is over, that they can come back. You can play them in the next round if you decide to keep them. It plays very similarly to the Star Wars card game, the one that came out not too long ago.
Oh, okay.
So if you're familiar with that game, in my opinion, it plays very similarly to that. In the fact that you have cards at the start of your turn that are going to be acting as mana. So those are you're using cards that are face down, as how you're paying for cards in your hand. And then every round you get to look at your hand and go, oh, I'm going to take one of these and add it. So you'll always have an extra one. I think we get most games I play, I get up to like 9 mana. So every round that you play, you can add one to give you extra money or mana to play cards, because it costs money to play or mana to play these cards. And then depending on where you play the cards will depend on which moves your hero or your companion. So I won't go into too many of the details here, but there are symbols that you have to be familiar with. Like if something is discarded, it's out of the game, it's going to be anchored. Like I said, it stays in the game, things like that. But this is common for these types of games. The art on these are beautiful. Like it's so pretty. I really enjoy the art on these. I like the fact that the gameplay is pretty straightforward. I mean, I like Champions and all of these other games, but they are a little bit more involved. Not saying they're hard, but it does take time to kind of, there were a couple rules in Champions where we had to kind of go to the website and be like, oh, I don't know. You know what I mean? It wasn't super clear. Versus this one, it's pretty straightforward. But they do have something that's interesting on these cards. They have QR codes. So your cards, and I thank whoever it is, shout out to the person on Blue Sky who was like, don't take pictures of your cards unless you've scanned them, because once you scan it, it's yours. So now I've scanned it. It's in my collection. There's an app that tracks all of this for you. I think they're opening a marketplace soon. That's to come. But then somebody can't say, oh, and scan that card. No, it's already been scanned to me. So I do appreciate that. I guess it's to prevent some of that second market stuff that was happening with Lorcana and some of these other card games. I don't know much about it, but there were some stolen things or whatever. So I don't know. So it prevents that. What I also appreciate, they have cards to print. So in Champions, and I bring it back to that because that's the one that we probably played the most, there were sometimes you were deck building and you're like, oh shoot, I really need these like basic cards.
Oh, those basic, the basic cards. Oh, the core basic cards. It aggravates me that they don't let you buy a booster pack of just those cards.
Just the basic cards, because you need to use them in all the decks that you're building.
I will pay you money. I will pay you money.
Like
you don't have to just...
How frustrating. And people are like, oh, it's not. No, it is. Especially because a lot of us, like I use the art sleeves. I think Suzanne has a few of them. It's annoying. Okay. And I don't want to have to
you want to build decks.
Right.
And you need those cards.
Yeah. That was one of my problems that I had with Champions. I love it. But that was a bit of a pain. This one, they actually have you can print them. So you can they have those kind of base cards that you can print because they know that people are going to deck build and need those kind of core base cards in their decks. That to me was like ding, ding, win, win. I love it. So I won't get into too many more details than that because it's a lot, like to talk about every single card or whatever in faction. I did find my faction. It's the most random one so far, and I love it. It's all about do this, roll a die. If you roll this, you get this. I'm about the chaos, so shout out to Tangi for helping me play through this because I know her and her sister really love it as well. So Altered, I don't know if people are playing it. I know as soon as you see TCG, LCG, any of these things are like, oh, more things that I have to buy. I've so far only received the base decks and pack of the boosters. I'm not gonna lie to you, I might buy a little more, depending on if I can get it played. That is always my issue, is getting it played, but I'm really enjoying it. And you can play it on Board Game Arena.
Mm.
So if you are on the fence about it, if you want to invest or just want to try
Or
it,
just give it a try, yeah.
yeah. So that is Altered, the TCG, and I think Suzanne, I think you would really enjoy this. I didn't get into Lorcana. I just kind of bypassed that one. Not that it's bad. I just didn't get into it, and this one is definitely catching my attention. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I need to look into it a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think the gameplay sounds fun. Like the whole QR code. I remember looking at the campaign and some of it felt like NFT-ish, which
Okay.
is not my vibe,
Right.
but I could be wrong. Like I don't really understand it
Right.
or how it works. So
Right.
I would want to research it a little bit more because the gameplay does sound fun. But with so many games, I think with available and good games available, I'm trying to be a little more selective in what, especially when it comes to a CCG, because
That's an
once you're
investment.
in, it can be
Yeah.
tough. But I
Absolutely.
like that you're enjoying it just out of the starters and stuff like that. And I think
Mhm.
that sounds great.
To be fair, the starters are not the best decks, and this has
Oh, they
been
never are. Yeah.
yeah. But in this game, like at least the champions ones were not too bad. These ones are not great. So just throwing it out there. I like the deck I'm working with, but yeah, I definitely would be more inclined to deck build.
Fair enough. All right. Well, last game to chat about this episode is a little bit of a mouthful. Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring trick taking game. It is very difficult. If you use Board Game Geek, you gotta search for Fellowship of the Ring
Oh.
trick taking. Like if you search for Lord of the Rings, good luck finding it. But the on the box, it's Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring trick taking game. This is designed by Brian Bornmueller, and we have illustrations credited to Elaine Ryan and Samuel R. Shimota. It's published by Office Dog Games,
Hmm.
and it retails for $25.
Not bad.
It as it says in the name, it's a trick taking game. It does play 1 to 4. Now, I'm very lucky because this was kind of in limited quantities at PAX Unplugged. And I bought a copy. So this isn't a review. I bought it, but I was lucky to buy it. And I felt really, really bad because I bought my copy and then the guy behind me was like, I want to buy that too. And the person at the counter was like, oops, they're all
That was the
gone.
last
Oh,
one.
no,
My bad.
sorry. But it is not available yet. I believe it's going to be available this month, January, because it's now January.
Hmm.
Weird. It should be available later on this month at retail
Yeah.
in general. So I got my copy at PAX Unplugged. Okay, so cooperative trick taking game, which we have seen a little bit more of with things like, especially the crew. And I think you're likely, I will do it, and I think you'll hear any other reviewer compare uh, this game to the crew because of the cooperative trick
Right.
taking element. All right, so I've played it at 1, 2, and 4. But I haven't played through the entire thing because this is a bit of a progressive campaign style game. So you open up this long box and you get your deck and the instructions, but then there's two little flappy boxes that are closed and you open up and they're like, don't open this yet. So basically, the game plays out in chapters, which is very thematic in a way for the book theme, for the Lord of the Rings theme. And as you progress, you're going to be opening those. And who doesn't love opening new stuff in a game anyway, whether it's a
Hmm.
campaign game or a legacy game? This trend of putting little hidden things or having things that you get to reveal during the game, I think it's fun. So I like that in this. So you're going to start off with a deck of cards. You've got 5 suits. It's like the hills, the forests, shadow, the ring suit, and most of them go 1 to 8, except for the ring suit goes 1 to 5. And of course, you have the One Ring card, dun dun dun, and then you've got a few character cards. So Frodo, Gandalf, things, Mary, that kind of thing. Character cards have 2 things on them. They have their goal and they have a setup instruction. The goal is whoever takes that character. So if I take Frodo, then I need to take a certain number of ring cards through trick taking play in order to achieve my goal, right? And every character has a slightly different goal. Maybe it's take the fewest tricks, maybe it's take exactly 2
Right.
tricks, that kind of thing. And then they're going to have a setup. And setup is often related to trading cards. You can trade one card with Sam, you can trade one card with Mary, that kind of thing. Cool. So you set up the cards, you play a fairly standard trick taking game. You have to follow suit. The highest card will take the trick. You can slough suits if they are off suit, and you cannot lead the ring until it's been broken, right? Until somebody can't play a ring, that kind of thing, or can't play a card and then shoves a ring underneath. If you're familiar with trick taking games, all that sounds very familiar. If you're not, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not gonna go into it in this podcast because teaching basic trick taking
Yeah.
games is, like, to me, one of the hardest rule sets
It
to
is.
teach, even experienced gamers, quite frankly. So yeah, pretty standard trick taking game, except you're working together and you have to hit all the players' goals, right? So, oh shoot, Mandy, you're playing so and so, and they can only take 2 tricks, and you just took one. I know that we have to avoid, that kind of thing.
Right.
And if you achieve all your goals, huzzah, you finish the chapter, and then you can move on to the next chapter. Oh, well, now the next chapter introduces a new character or things like that. And I don't want to be very spoilery because there are fun things that you uncover as you go. So I'm not going to talk through that. But what I will say is, as you progress, more characters will be added. So you start with some basics. The setup card for each chapter tells you what characters you have access to in that, and some of them will be mandatory. It will say you must include these characters in this chapter
Right.
for play, that kind of thing. So you're going to progress, you're going to unlock more cards. I'm not going to say more than that, other than some of them are definitely characters, but there's other stuff that you unlock as you go. I would say the challenge gets harder as you go, and you have this whole 16, 17 chapter
Oh.
game to go through. And of course, you can replay any of them.
Right.
All right. Woo! Now let's go to some specifics. 3 and 4 player play fairly standardly, the way I talked about. Solo and 2-player game.
Hmm.
So they are different.
Right.
Solo, you essentially play a 4-handed game on your own, but there's a pretty simple deck cycling mechanism that makes it very smooth. Because Mandy, you and I talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
We like solo games, but we don't like cumbersome AIs
Right.
or cumbersome extra players that you have to play through. Solo, you play a 4-handed thing, and as cards go, the deck pull is very streamlined, so it didn't feel like a lot of management
Okay.
to me personally. I liked it solo.
Really? Because when you said
Yeah,
four-handed, oh.
I know, that's the thing. You lay out your 4 characters, they have cards next to them, but the way that it works, the way you reveal cards, you flip some cards as you go, it in some ways makes it harder, and I didn't find that cumbersome.
Okay.
2-player, you play with a third, faker, but you use I don't know if it's called a Winchester draft or a Winston draft. I can't. It's similar to like a Seven Wonders duel where you lay out
Okay.
cards in a pyramid, and some are face up and some are face down. And as you go up, as you reveal cards that are face down, you unlock them.
Right.
And that third player is controlled by one person, and they have the Frodo card as a goal. And so it's interesting because you see the cards, you see some of the cards in the pyramid, and it becomes a different kind of game. And that's what I found actually very, very interesting. Depending on the type of person you are and how you're going to play this game,
Mm-hmm.
playing 3 and 4, well, I played 4, playing 2-player and playing solo, they actually, it's clearly the same game, but the way you experience it feels different because
Right.
it feels more like a trick taking game, or it feels more like a puzzle game almost when you're looking at the 2-player game. And the 1-player game the solo player almost feels more challenging. I found it really interesting how differently the different modes of play felt
Right.
as I experienced them. And I liked them all. I'll be really honest. I liked them all. I will also add, if you are a Lord of the Rings player or fan, of the books or the movies or whatever, the theme is lovely, right? And the way that they reveal characters, the way that even the goals that are assigned to characters, it's very, very cute.
Yeah.
I will also say the art is really cool. It's got this stained glass
Yeah, I
effect
saw
look
that.
to it and vibe. Very, very pretty. Um, yeah, I think the game is really, really good. What I will add is if you are an experienced taking player, which I am, I've been playing, bridge, spades, things like that,
Yeah.
pinochle since I was very young. It feels easier than a game like The Crew. Overall, I've played up through chapter 10 or 11 now. It does get harder as you go, but in general, I felt like the missions were in general there were challenges there, but we've had a lot of success playing through it. Let
Right.
me put it that way. Now there is a mix depending on what characters you're in, and that can change. And of course, it's a card game, so things are random in the deck and things like that. But if you like trick taking, if you want a cooperative game, if you want a game that you can play solo or cooperatively with a group,
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, trick taking, I really, really like it end to end, soup to nuts in multiple modes. And I can't say that about every game. So big thumbs up for me, actually.
Okay, hold on. Still hung up on soup to nuts. What is that?
So don't you say soup to nuts?
No, I can't say that I have. I don't know if that's an American thing, a Seattle thing, a Suzanne thing.
Soup
I
to nuts. It's the full meal, right? From the first course of soup to the snack at the end, the nuts, soup to nuts.
Yeah, that's a new one for me, but hey, maybe other people
All
are
right. Well, we'll ask people to
trying.
chime in
But,
if I
um,
ever get the Board Game Geek Guild threads updated on that one.
but I did play this with a group at PAX, and I really enjoyed it. So I haven't received my copy as of yet, but it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I had the same reaction when I heard like solos. Sounds like intense, and I said, yeah, I'm not that kind of solo player. And the person who was showing it to us was like, no, 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 no. Like honestly, it's not that hard. And they explained it. I'm like, oh, okay, that doesn't sound too bad. I mean,
It really, I found it
yeah,
pretty
super
easy.
easy management. So I was okay
Smooth,
with
I
that.
should say.
So yeah, have to see.
All righty. So there you have it. Some games we've been playing. Before we end the show, of course, we need to serve up some dessert, Andy.
Mhm.
The dessert comes before the nuts in soup to nuts, in case you're
I should
curious.
hope so.
It's that time, folks. It's time for your board game dessert. It's time for game pie. Of course, game pie is when Mandy and I serve up a selection of games or other things based on our whims and our excellent taste because we hate ranking things like top tens, but we love baked goods. So, what better way to collect things and serve them up than a pie? And hey, it's January 1st, brand new year. What better thing to do than to have a game pie full of our gaming resolutions for the year? So, not games, but our resolutions, our board game resolutions. And Mandy,
Yes.
I think we got a little overlap in ours, but
A little bit.
I liked thinking about this. I
Yeah.
liked thinking about what our year looks like and setting some goals. I'm not a huge New Year's resolutions person, but
Right.
somehow thinking about what I wanted to accomplish or do around board gaming this year was a really fun exercise for me.
Agreed. Yeah. And I definitely had these things in my mind, but maybe I'm not the only one. You know what I mean? Who's on this train.
Sure.
So see how it
And
goes.
yeah, and definitely want to hear from other folks too, in the guild or in social and things like that. So, anyway,
Yeah.
Mandy, you serve up our first slice.
Sure. So my first slice of gaming resolution pie is to make more time for solo RPGs.
Yeah.
So I talk about them a lot and I buy them a lot and I have a ton of them and they're sitting there and just trying to get time to sit down with them. I find I'm so, engulfed with digital stuff, so whether it's the
Hmm.
console or whatever, and I'm like, nah, I need to take a break from that and get into it because I really do want to play more of them, but I need time and sometimes I need quiet time to do that. So,
Hmm.
and I think I was put off a little bit because I got the One Ring,
Hmm.
which is not a solo specific RPG, but there's a solo module,
Hmm.
and it's a lot. It's not
Yeah.
bad, by the way, it's just a lot. So I've read through a lot of it, and then just by the time I read through it, I'm like, "Gosh, this was exhausting just reading it." Like, now I actually have
Mm.
to play it, which I think is gonna be great, but it just really pulled a lot out of me. So I think after that, I kinda just, like, stepped back a bit from it, and I'm like, "You know what? We're gonna shelve that one for now." and then
Mhm.
maybe just start off with some of the shorter ones or the less complex ones,
Mhm.
and then I can jump back into it. I just feel that kind of threw me off. So just setting up more time for that because I really do enjoy doing them, and I have some really cool ones that I've picked up. So I wouldn't mind getting back into that solo RPG kind of headspace this year.
I love that, and I could totally copy back. In fact, I just got this in the mail. Because
Ah,
from and I'm holding it up for the people listening to the audio podcast. They're like, "Thanks for that."
yeah.
It's 2 little solo RPG pamphlets from Possible Worlds Games.
Mhm.
One is a mapping one, and one is a dice stacking
I don't think
one,
I have those.
and
Hmm.
I just bought them,
Oh,
like,
okay, okay. Because I was at
like,
the
a week ago.
Oh, because I scour, by the way, the halls for
Oh,
them,
no,
and
no, I ordered these online.
oh, specifically online. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
I ordered them specifically online, direct from Possible World Games. And to your point, Mandy, I do enjoy solo RPGs. Again, I'm not as into the journaling
Sure.
style, but little ones like this that have fun, quirky mechanics,
Yeah.
I'm totally into. So I love that resolution, and I'm gonna steal that one for myself as well.
Before you jump into yours, I wanted to throw it out there. So, on our channel, we also have Stephanie who focuses on these, and the reason why I say that is because she's really like some of them I probably wouldn't have even looked at, and just looking at her some of her videos, I'm like, oh, you know what, that actually looks really interesting.
Yeah,
And
she's great.
cartographers was one that was on my list. I think I even bought the PDF, and after watching, I'm like, yeah, I got to really jump into this one. So, if anyone is interested in looking at more play of it, she does do that as well on the channel. So, shameless plug while we're here.
It's her channel. Plug away. All right. My first slice of gaming resolutions pie is I actually want to discuss the industry more on this very podcast.
Mm,
I think that there are tons of great content creators out there. There are tons of great podcasters, but I do think that Mandy and I, for a variety of reasons, have a slightly extra perspective
yeah.
and take on things that happen. And I realize that with kind of the implosion, explosion of some of the social media outlets out there, that certain stories aren't discussed as much, or there are certain stories, frankly, that I see in the wind that because of my experience both as with a publisher and as a media person and from like say a professional marketing point of view for decades, that I have a slightly different perspective that I wish was circulated a little
Right.
more. Whether I'm right or wrong, that's for people to discuss, but I realize that we kind of backed off of discussing the industry in the podcast
Mm,
as much, and I think we should do more of that. I think that we should talk not about specifically games all the time, but
sure.
issues that we hear coming up, excitement, things like, for example, last episode we talked about PAX Unplugged overlapping with BGG Con
Mm,
next year. And we talked about how there's rumors that PAX Unplugged did that intentionally to step on BGG Con, and we talked about why that was completely false, the
right.
very logistical reasons that was completely false, and I want us to be bringing that to the table a little bit more. So I think it's kind of a resolution for me, but I'm also pushing it on you too, Mandy.
No,
Surprise!
but no, it's a good one because we are in the industry and sometimes we're doing like you're working in a space that I'm not working in at
Right?
all. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there are things that I love hearing because it's like, oh, I didn't know that. I could learn a few things as well. And then I do things in the industry that, not to say that you've never done these things, but you're not doing those things. And I would
Yeah.
like to highlight them a little more because it does highlight different communities doing things within.
Absolutely,
Do you
especially
know?
in the DEI community and things like that. Absolutely.
Exactly, and we're
Great
hoping
work.
to have we're trying to coordinate times because we're on different time zones, but, and sorry, I'm throwing this in here, 'cause I think it's important, but, there were a couple of doctors that I did some interviews with at an event called Canada Plays that we have here for retailers, and, they did some research into autism and gaming, so I know that's kind of, like, adjacent a little bit to what you're talking about, but I think talking about more of these things would be really great, so we're
I agree.
hoping to have them on the show at some point. They live in, I don't know if it's London or England, like, I'm not sure exactly where in England specifically.
Oh, time zones, yeah.
The time zones are a bit of a struggle right now, so we're working on
Yeah,
it, but, like, as someone who's neurospicy, I would like to touch on some more of these types of things. So, anyway, so yeah, so it's a wide gamut of things that we could talk about, so no, I appreciate you bringing that up.
love it.
My second slice of gaming resolution pie, this one's hard for me because I find over the years I've become more of a recluse. I don't know why, but consistently setting up games with my local game group. It's not my friends and so forth, but I'm part of the Canada board gamers, and that's who I help put the convention with locally. I'm on the board for that, and it's a struggle for me just because I'm busy, but also I think I need to make more time to make sure that I'm going to these events because there are new people that are coming all the time, and it is nice to see variety of people at the game night, So I think that being a representative, I should be there more. Hey, and it helps me get some of those games played. There have been a few people who consistently, when I'm there, put in our little Discord. They're like, "Yeah, Mandy, we got you. We're gonna help you get these, to the table because my game groups are increasingly becoming a bit more, life is happening. They're busy, that sort of thing, and it's good to have a diverse kind of group to play with and support the group that I'm a part of and I do, work with.
Mhm.
So that is something that I need to get out of the house a little bit more for that sort of thing. And it's literally 5 minutes away, so I have no excuse.
Oh, yeah. But I get it, I get it. I love that. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Next slice up for me for my New Year's, my, gaming resolutions for the year is play more heavy games. I've noticed in general, it feels like a lot of the community is trending towards more midweight, lighter weight games, and that's probably for a wide variety of
Yeah.
reasons, but, uh, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. I love light games, I love midweight games, but I do also love heavier games, and recently I got to play Black Forest, the Uwe Rosenberg game. I got to play
Nice.
Woodcraft, the Vladimir Suchy game, and I'm sitting there, these are a couple hours games.
Yeah.
They're not like Vital Lacerda necessarily or whatever, but and I was like, I love these games. I love this kind of challenge and I love this kind of play. And they're just harder to get to the table.
Sure.
But making the effort to either set up separate game days or, maybe working with a couple of my game groups that let's all prep on the rules before game night so that there's no teach, so
Yeah.
we can dive right in or something like that. Because we all enjoy them. It's just harder to get them to the table. But I want to get my like I have a couple of Vital I have Weather Machine.
Yeah. I still
I,
haven't played
I
that.
backed it. I haven't played it.
I
And I mean, that's
still.
ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm right
So,
there with you.
yeah, getting more heavy games to the table this year is a big goal of mine.
I'm right there with you. And again, it just comes down to I used to have a group that was really into them. Life events happen, so I just
Yeah.
haven't been able to get them played, and I will never play those types of games solo. I'm sorry. It's just not for me to play solo.
Mhm.
But I do want to play them. But like you said, I have a couple of Sarahs there that are sitting there that I backed. I'm like, I'd really like to get these to
Yeah.
the table. And it's been a bit of a struggle. So this ties into my previous slice where they have offered, like, yeah, let's do it. So I've got some really eager people that are
That's
willing to
awesome.
help out. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you. Hearts. Well, the next one on our list is going to be a shared one. Our next slice. Yes, because I
We
think
overlapped.
we overlap. Now, I'm in a different position with this than Suzanne because I do it. I don't want to say regularly, but I do have a scheduled time when I do this. But yeah, so the next slice of gaming resolution pie for both of us is culling games. So, I mean, we get games on a regular basis, whether we're buying them or we're getting them for review. It's constantly coming through. So I know for myself, like, I'm actually running out of room to put games.
Yep.
Um,
I'm out.
this
Yep.
is a problem, and at the end of the day, I'm trying to keep games that are ones that I enjoy, that I know that I'll get to the table, and I even have shelves that are specific to, like, kids, like, if the kids, my nephews and stuff come over, so I try to make those spaces, and I do tend to call games around, our convention, so, that'll be when I just do a big load, but I need to maybe do that, a bit more throughout the year, but, my goal is to go through all of my Calexes and just kind of, is this a repeat? Do I love this? And it's hard because I have memories attached to games, and that's often why I find it difficult to call them.
Yeah, I similar to I don't to your point, I haven't made as many frequent efforts, which is bad because that just means games are stacking up. I
Yeah.
am out of space. I have a lot of space in my house dedicated to board game storage, and I'm out of space. And it's untenable. And the reality is I don't need every game. And I don't, Mandy, to your point, yeah, I have some nostalgia on games. I'm over it. Now I just need to clear space. And I've donated games before
Yes.
and
Me
things
too.
like that. But the reality is, yes, we do receive review copies, but I've been in the hobby for 30 plus years. I have thousands of games.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I've spent a lot of money on a lot of these games. We do get review copies, but like none of the games I talked about today were review copies. I
Yep.
purchased all of those games, right? And I could use some money. I got to paint my house this year. My HOA is like, you got to paint your house. And so I'm hoping to sell them or a number of them. And I mean, it's literally hundreds and hundreds of games that I
Yeah.
need to get rid of. And or because I'm stupid, like, I just realized I went through the shelves. I'm sitting, for those of you listening, I'm sitting in front of, some board game shelves where I tend to store my import games from Asia,
Mhm.
but I looked over my shoulder and I realized, like, this is a great example. To my side here, I have 2 copies of Canvas right next to each other on my shelf. Do I need 2 copies of Canvas? No. Why do I have 2 copies of Canvas? I have no idea. I probably backed it
Yeah,
twice by
I've
accident
done that.
because that's how careless and
Yeah,
thoughtless I am, which is a bad thing, but I don't need 2 copies of Canvas, so one's gotta go,
yeah.
that kind of thing. So, culling games, it's a big deal. I've got kind of a plan in the works to try to do it, and, oh, I can't ship anything. It's gotta be in the Seattle area
Sure,
because
because
shipping is
that's well, it's
yeah.
expensive, it's time consuming. I mean, I
Yes.
can't speak for the States, but in Canada, shipping anything is ridiculously expensive, so I
Yep.
hear you. But maybe we need to just, you know what? This year I used to do this. I'm gonna make a spreadsheet of all of the games that I own. I used to do this, by the way, and then I just stopped because it was just getting out of control. But I think maybe doing that will help me kind of be like, "Hey, this is"
Mhm.
seeing it at that number may encourage me to be a little more on top of it.
Yeah.
Well, did you wanna go to yours, Suzanne? Because I kinda introduced that one. So,
Mine?
your next slice, because or I can just
No,
jump in.
you go. No, let's
Yeah?
do
Okay.
yours. Yeah.
Alright, so my final slice of gaming resolution pie is uh, it's kind of like it is gaming related because I think I'm spending too much time on that, but is, setting aside time for other hobbies. And I think this has been on my list before. We get so consumed with games because that's the world we're in. We're podcasting, we're doing videos, we get games, and I find myself always organizing time to make sure, which is, we're supposed to do, prioritize, getting these games played because we gotta review them in a reasonable amount of time or talk about them, that sort of thing. And that's great. But also, I sew, I snowboard, I do all of these other things outside of games that kind of sometimes fall by the wayside. And that bothers me a little bit. Just before the podcast, Suzanne I was telling her, I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll get to sew that winter coat that I've been trying to sew for like 2 years now. Yeah. So
Yeah, I think you mentioned the coat on this
yeah,
podcast, like, a while ago,
still hasn't been sewn. The 300
and no judgment there, like, I get it.
It's well, and that's it, like, because 'cause there's always something, right? I'm like, "Yeah, but you also have to take time for you, like me." Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So, I spent a lot of money on the material. I think it cost me like $300. I got it from the UK specifically, I don't know where. Because I really wanted the specific color and, I was really excited to make it, and it just never happened. So, for me, getting into those other like, making sure those other hobbies have some priority in my life because I feel like gaming is great and I love it, but I also have other things that I enjoy doing, so I really need to set aside some time to do that.
I think that is great. We wanna be well-rounded people,
Mm,
and you don't want your hobby to be an obsession, like an
right.
unhealthy obsession, and balancing your life is a great way to manage that, and I think that's
Exactly.
awesome. Alright, the last slice of pie is, for my gaming resolutions for the year. Let's see how this goes. I want to debox a bunch of games, and
Oh,
this goes directly to what we just talked about with culling games.
right.
I'm out of space. I mean, if I had all the space in the world,
Sure.
I've got a lot of great games. Like, when I'm culling, I'm getting rid of good games.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have to get rid of games I actually very, very much like because that's how many games I have and how much space I'm out of.
Absolutely.
So it's not about the quality of the games at this point. But that said, I love games. I love board games. I've got thousands of games, but I don't have the space. So what do I do about that? Well, the reality is we talk about it. Everybody talks about it. Are you collecting are you collecting games or are you collecting boxes? And there are a lot of games out there that have way too much air.
Yeah.
We see people like Eric Martin from BGG, he cuts down his boxes. That sounds like a lot of effort, and I'm not gonna do that.
Sure.
Um, I'm gonna try to get rid of boxes. I have gone so far, Mandy, so what I'm planning on doing
Mhm.
is getting rid of the boxes, bagging up, like, in giant zippy bags, bagging up all the games, making a label for and then putting them in pretty file
Yep.
cabinet boxes. I think I can get, like, 30% more storage space, or at least if I do this. Now, I won't do it with all games because I love the packaging. The packaging sometimes is part of the experience or part of
Right.
the joy of having a collection. But I have games, um, for example, I have a game called, oh shoot, now I think it's called Maharaja. It's
Okay.
an old Queen game.
Yep. I know which one you're talking about.
The boxes Nothing. Like, with respect to the artist, I'm sorry, but, like, the box is nothing. It's nothing I need to see on my shelf. It's not a point of pride.
Right.
It's, a pretty run of the mill box. I don't care about the box. I care about the game in the box. Well, that box can go. That game can stay, and that's what I'm gonna do. And it's not like I said, it's not gonna be for every game, but I wanna reclaim some of my space, but I don't wanna get all my games. So how do I have my cake and eat it too, or my
Yeah.
pie and eat it too? I think this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try it. I have purchased the zippy bags. I did research on the right size bag that would be big enough to hold the boards and the rule books, but not like super giant
Right.
clothing size bags. I've purchased 45 of these bags. And so I'm pretty serious about getting that done this
Good.
year and seeing how it goes. So hold me accountable. Mandy, hold me accountable.
Yeah.
Folks out there, hold me accountable, but that is my plan. I will take photos and show how it goes because I suspect showing me recycling the boxes will, uh I will get amusement out of some people's reactions to that.
I think some people will be, yeah, shocked, to say
We'll
the
see.
least.
We'll see.
No,
So
it's
there you
good.
go. There are our gaming resolutions for the year, new resolutions, all that good stuff. I would love to hear about your gaming resolutions. I know I'm very, very behind on the Board Game Geek Guild. Hey, there's a resolution. Update the Geek Guild today. There you go. But you can always email us your gaming resolutions or any questions, comments you have about the podcast or about games. You can find us at saltandsassgames@gmail.com. Or you can join us on our Board Game Geek Guild 4131. They're talking about video games. It's great as well. There's like lots of little chatters going on. I will get it updated. It's just been hectic. And that's Guild 4131. You can always chime in there. Or we find actually a lot of you just like to talk to us on social media. I like that too.
Yeah, so the socials, some of you, hey, might be watching us right now on the Twitch, but we are also on YouTube at Salt and Sass Games. We've made a few changes to the pages, so check those out, please. So that's Salt and Sass Games. We are also on, most recently, Blue Sky. So we're at Salt and Sass. So no games on it, just Salt and Sass on Blue Sky. You can find me on Instagram, Blue Sky, all the things at 613 Mandy. That's Mandy with an I. How about you, Suzanne?
And you can find me on the social media spaces at 425 Suzanne. As always, it has been a pleasure and privilege podcasting with you today. Thank you so much for making us part of your extended gaming family and for being part of ours. Hey, 2025, it's going to be a wild year, especially for folks that live in the United States. And so I just want to tell everyone out there, I wish you the very best of years.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones, take care of your friends. And we're really lucky to have a hobby that is fun, that brings joy, that can bring people together. And so keep that in mind. I know that there'll be some struggles coming up, but we will make it through it together. That's the way we tend to make it through things best, right, Mandy?
Right. Exactly.
And as you're doing that, I will always remind you, no matter what encounters you have, make sure you stay hydrated. You can't do anything if you aren't well hydrated. Take care of yourself in that way as well. And until next episode, play a lot of games, folks. We'll see you next time.